Welcome to this 26th day of lockdown in South Africa, level 4. My name is Mark Long, rector of the parish of St Andrew in Newlands, Cape Town. Today's reading comes from the Gospel of John, not unusually at this time. We are coming to the end of Eastertide and an opportunity to probably move into other readings after Pentecost. But we have celebrated Ascension last week, and we're in this time of this almost liminal space between seasons as we await to see what the Spirit of God will do in our world and our lives. As we face Pentecost, of course, it's not that Pentecost hasn't already happened. And of course, it's an opportunity to remember and to give thanks for what God has done and continues to do in our world as we gather next Sunday. But in between, there is this time of waiting, and we mark that. And as the Spirit came upon the disciples 2 millennia ago, so the Spirit continues to be in our world, continues to be in our lives. And the season that comes up, just as Eastertide has been a time of really re-encountering Jesus and the goodness of God in our world, so Pentecost will be an opportunity for us to reflect again on what it means to have the Spirit of God in our midst, working in us and through us in all things. Today's reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 17. It's a passage called Jesus' priestly high prayer, and it's one in which Jesus gives thanks for all that has taken place in his life and acknowledges that the time is drawing to an end, and thanking the source of all being, the Father, for having sustained him through that. But not praying specifically for himself, except in a sense of thankfulness and in a sense of drawing his ministry to a close and acknowledging and giving account for all that his life and ministry has been. But probably more importantly, praying for the disciples and ultimately praying for you and I, as we're part of or draw on that as part of our heritage of faith. And wonderful to have that sense of being prayed for, being at the heart of Jesus' concern, and touching on also just the heart of God's real concern for the world. In John's Gospel, the world represents so many different things. It's often seen as hostile to God's activity, but it's also the focus of God's love. It's the reason that Jesus has been born. It's the reason for the incarnation. It's the space in which God has come to, in Jesus, demonstrate what life is all about and how life should be lived in its fullness. And so my hope is that through this period of Eastertide, we have embraced something of all of that, and that we know ourselves to be loved, deeply loved by God. And as you read both today's passage from John 17, but the wider chapter, just to almost revel in that wonderful sense that the world that we have been placed in is really an environment that God has created for life to be lived in great abundance and joy. That may be proving somewhat difficult under lockdown at the moment, but I trust that in the midst of it all, we have all known, and you've known along with me, a sense of God's presence, God's love on the journey.